new laws banning XL bully dogs in England and Wales take effect from today. It is now, as of this morning, a criminal offence to own one of the dogs without an exemption certificate. And yet, it's believed that thousands and thousands of the dogs are going to be in homes and on our streets with owners who have not registered them, not neutered them, and not got that certificate. I know we're all surprised that people who own XL bully dogs aren't people who obey the law. I know, what a shocker for everyone. But that means people are still at risk, particularly children, from these incredibly strong dogs. Well, joining me right now to discuss this is former dog trainer and publisher of Canine magazine, Ryan O'Meara. Good morning to you, Ryan.
Morning.
Thanks so much for joining us. Now, you've always been very clear. I've spoken to you many times on my show. Dogs aren't a problem. It's the people who own them who are the problem. I often think it's the sort of person who wants to own a certain sort of dog that might be the issue. But this isn't... Think about the XL bully dogs. They're not an actual breed themselves, are they? So they're rather difficult to identify, aren't they? Other than you go, that looks like one.
But you're exactly right. I mean, I've said to people before, imagine that we tried to ban Labradors, which is not something that I'm advocating, but we've all seen dogs that we can clearly identify look like a Labrador, and then there are loads and loads of dogs that look a little bit Labrador-y. And so when you are talking about a dog that is inherently a crossbreed in the first place, what we're asking the police to do is to become dog experts. Yeah. Now, I've seen court cases where two dog experts are arguing about whether a pit bull is a pit bull, and they are arguing about whether the thickness of the tail's right or whether the neck meets the correct measurements. So this is the fundamental problem with breed-specific legislation, is that what it seeks to do is ban a dog breed, which is neither possible in application, nor has it done anything to actually solve the problem of dog attacks and irresponsible dog ownership.
What a surprise, our MPs bringing in laws that aren't really enforceable properly. We have this with the Dangerous Dogs Act. Often many people say, rush through as a result of a spate of attacks and hasn't really solved the issue. Look, we have seen a lot more people getting dogs. Certainly during lockdown, a lot of people at home, I know at least 4 families who've got dogs. They have beautiful, lovely, well-behaved, well-trained dogs that are not going to be a danger to anybody. But an awful lot of people had dogs where, suddenly they're not at home every day and they've not trained them properly, and those dogs aren't getting the sort of exercise that they need to keep happy, and they are often being badly treated themselves. And they are a risk. We've seen child after child being attacked, brutally attacked. We've seen adults unable to escape. In fact, there's some extraordinary videos of adults being basically attacked by a passing dog in the street that's out of control. This is a real concern for people. Why are these dogs such a particular threat, though? It's all about sort of the strength of their jaws, isn't it?
Well, yeah, they are a stronger dog breed, and I think it would be disingenuous for anybody to say all dogs are equal, because they're not. Clearly, if a Chihuahua attacks you, the worst that's going to happen is you're going to have to get stitches and maybe a tetanus jab. Whereas if a large, powerful dog attacks you, and particularly if they attack a child, then we are talking about life-threatening risk. And so I think what we have to all understand is that any large dog is capable of inflicting very serious injuries and death on a person. And so we have a situation where we need laws that actually stop breeders. Everything starts with breeders. Yeah. Breeders that are irresponsible will be happy to supply irresponsible. So we then have the vicious cycle of the worst breeders supplying the worst owners. Yeah. And then when a dog gets a reputation, such as at the moment it's the XL bully, next year it could be another breed or an amalgamation of breeds.
You could put down every XL bully and they'll move on to the next dog. That's what they did after the pit bulls, didn't they? But this is the thing. A lot of people who own these dogs, they want to own them. They use them as a weapon to intimidate people. To show I'm the big I am, and they want people to be scared of these animals, which is pretty darn worrying. But the really extraordinary thing is when the deadline passed last night, 40,000 people had complied with legislation. They'd formally registered their animals with the Department for Food and Rural Affairs. That includes they have to have strict rules around their care. They have to prove that they are in control of those dogs. They have to keep them on a lead and muzzle them in public at all times. They have to have them neutered so they're not going to be used for breeding. But it's believed there are some 10,000 other XL bully dogs, haven't been checked, haven't been certified. By definition, we've got owners who couldn't care less about the law. those dogs are going to be on our streets, still at risk. And actually, not just on risk on our streets. We've seen people whose family members have been attacked in the garden and in the home. How are we going to deal with that?
Well, I think this whole thing has its roots with the 1991 Dangerous Dogs Act. And ultimately, if this government had got any sense at all, which it doesn't, what it would have done is it said, how's that gone for us?
Yeah.
Before 1991, no person in this country had ever been killed by a pit bull. By banning the pit bull, by making it this breed of infamy, what the government did is it sought to identify a breed it could get rid of. There are now more pit bulls than there were ever before 1991, and I would go as far as to suggest that we'll see the exact same with the XL bully. So there are those people who know they've got one, and what we've seen with the pit bull, there are loads of people that don't even know they've got one, and they ultimately just have a dog that meets the legal description of a prescribed dog breed. And so as an approach to solving the problem of irresponsible dog ownership, banning breeds hasn't worked. We've got lots of evidence for that. What the government should be doing is it should be saying, well, how do we fix the problem? How do we stop the worst owners getting dogs from the worst breeders?
What we need to
do
clamp
that is
down
to
on the
legislate
breeders and the
Absolutely.
importers, and the penalties need to be huge, do they not? We need to have licenses for breeders, licenses for people who buy dogs, proper training. You have to. It's going to add a cost on, but frankly, owning a dog is quite an expensive business. And it's a time-consuming business. And if you're not willing to put that in, you probably shouldn't be having a dog.
I agree, and I've kind of been arguing this now for the past 24 years, and I've spoken to MPs, and they say, Do you want to deny, a little old lady getting a dog?" Yes, yeah. If somebody isn't willing to do the work to
Yeah.
get a license and to show that they are responsible, and if a breeder isn't willing to do the same, if that means denying people dogs, yes,
I'm
absolutely.
with you all the way. Ryan O'Meara, thank you very much indeed for joining us, former dog trainer himself and publisher of Canine magazine. Still with me is Philip Ingram. Look, these dogs are on the streets. They are terrifying. I'm very much with you, the people who own them are the problem more than the dogs in that sense, except that, you don't read, if I see a front page story about a child being viciously murdered, killed or just maimed, but even that's awful enough, by a dog attack, it's never a Labrador or a Collie, is it?
Ban the owner, don't ban the breed. We need to look at responsible owners. And I'm a dog owner. I've got a collie, and she's fantastic.
But they're wonderful dogs.
They're so intelligent. But I go out dog walking, and you do see people with pit bulls, with XL bully dogs, and all the rest of it. And I have to say, the majority with the XL bullies or with other aggressive-looking breeds tend to operate them aggressively, and
they're being pulled along by them. They're treating them quite aggressively.
Exactly, and they encourage them to bark at other dogs, and that's an owner's problem. You can train any dog, no matter what breed it is, to behave well. If they're not trained and they're not supervised, they'll go off the rails.
Yeah, exactly. And again, these dogs are so much more dangerous because they have such strong jaws. I mean, basically, we've seen. I mean, while we've been talking, some of the video footage of adults, strong men unable to fight off these dogs. Other people, kicking them. I mean, smashing them with things and cannot get them to let go. I mean, these animals, they're like sort of wild zoo animals. They've got no business on our streets.
Well, no business whatsoever. And your dogs are powerful. That's why the police use them to take criminals down. That's why the military use them to protect military bases.
Exactly. Very good point, Philip. Thank